Hey everyone, are you struggling with stubborn weight gain and can't quite figure out why? Well, in this video, I'll share 7 things that could be secretly adding to your scale. I'll start with diving into the 7 things, and then at the end I'll run through my own personal story. So let's get started. So the first thing is white carbohydrates. So this is bread, pasta, rice, flour, the bread on breaded chicken. It's essentially making you eat more than you need, and it rots your teeth. So this is ultimately from Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Body, and it's the slow carb diet. And this is rule number 1 in his slow carb diet. And in his book, he talks about how insulin increases the storage of fat, which is the main reason why we want to avoid carbohydrates. But bearing in mind this book was written quite a long time ago, but a more recent book by Chris Van Tulleken highlights that there's no evidence that varying carbohydrates versus fats actually has any impact on weight. And the only thing that we can really count on is the fact that carbohydrates is sugar, which is addictive, which makes you eat more than you need. I've definitely found this personally. White bread is my kryptonite, and I would just eat slice after slice. And through following this diet and cutting that out, I binge way less, and I'm so much happier. So I definitely believe that white carbohydrates is a key thing that is causing added weight. Another interesting fact is that chlorine dioxide, which is used to bleach the flour in things like white bread, actually combines with residual proteins and forms a chemical that's used in laboratories to actually give test rats diabetes. So God knows what that does to humans, but I would suspect that it's not a good thing. So the thing to do here, and the kind of way I've managed to reduce white carbohydrates in my diet, is by basically swapping out anything that was a white carbohydrate to a pulse. So that's black beans, borlotti beans, and then just tins of mixed beans is what I've been eating. And I find that's a great way to get the calories in, get some extra protein in, stay kind of plant-based, and also feel very full and satiated. So I also heard of a hack where you can basically take any pasta dish and replace the pasta with white beans, and it tastes delicious. So that's my main way of sticking to rule number 1. So the second thing that could be causing you to have increased weight is ultra-processed food. And this is directly from Chris Van Tulleken's book, Ultra-Processed People, which I think came out last year. He basically talks about how ultra-processed food has completely permeated our diet. It contains things that aren't actually food and is highly addictive and has been kind of chemically made to hack our brain systems and causes us to essentially eat more than we need. So if you want to know what counts as a UPF, an ultra-processed food, then there's a very simple rule of thumb you can use. If it's wrapped in plastic and it has one ingredient that you wouldn't find in your kitchen at home, then it's probably ultra-processed. So in the book, Chris Van Tulleken talks about how your body has this kind of homeostatic system for regulating energy intake, and UPF essentially completely overrides that system, or maybe even breaks it. We don't quite know how it interacts with your kind of natural evolved systems, but we know that it can lead to an increase in consumption. I would also say that it's not just the food itself that causes increased weight or increased consumption, it's the advertisements as well. So advertisements essentially will act as a cue for you to eat more than you need, or just integrates with that pleasure kind of system that can also override the natural homeostatic system that causes you to regulate your weight. So yeah, ultra-processed food is a thing that could be causing you to have increased weight. The third thing that could be causing you to have increased weight is just eating a huge variety of food. So as Tim Ferriss puts it, there are 47,000 things in the supermarket, and only a small handful of them will not make you fat. This also intersects with Chris Van Tulleken's point around the fact that most of the food in the supermarket is ultra-processed. And I think if you were to go to a supermarket now and literally the ingredients list of a lot of the foods that are listed, you'll see that the vast majority are ultra-processed. And I think this is one of the reasons why the slow carb diet works so well, because it basically forces you to cancel out all of that ultra-processed food that Chris Van Tulleken talks about. If you eat that massive variety, then you don't benefit from the compounding effect of eating the same thing over and over again. So you know, as is talked about in Atomic Habits and lots of other books that recognize the benefits of repeating behavior, as it gets easier to do things and you improve on the outputs. So if you're cooking slow carb recipes all the time and you limit yourself to only slow carb recipes, you're going to get very good at slow carb recipes. Whereas if you do lots of different recipes and try lots of different things, then it's going to be harder to optimize those for your own health and needs. So sticking to a select few recipes is going to be really helpful keeping your weight down. So eating a huge variety of food could cause your weight to be increasing. Thing number 4 that could be contributing to increasing weight is drinking your calories. So Tim Spector talks about how important matrix structure is in food. So the kind of natural packaging that the food comes in. So I'd say like an almond, for example, would have an extremely high matrix structure. That means it's really difficult to break down. And obviously drinking calories has the exact opposite. It has no matrix structure. You're literally just mainlining typically sugar into your body. And so it gets absorbed very quickly, used very fast, and potentially just converted to fat very quickly. So another point here is that the sweetener within some 0-calorie drinks counts as ultra processed, and sweeteners have been shown to interfere with the body's natural weight regulating or energy intake system. So we must avoid sweeteners as well if we want to keep the weight off. Point number 5 that could be contributing to increased weight is eating too much fruit. Fruit obviously full of fructose. It's a sugar, again, highly addictive. Fructose is the sugar that's easiest to convert into fat, and I just think we don't need it. I actually found this really easy to stick to. I don't particularly like fruit or like highly sweet things. I'm more than happy with just vegetables, so this was something that's quite easy for me to stick to, and sugar from fruit can be quite addictive. And then point number 6 that could be contributing to increased weight is your genetics. And I don't really like this one because there's not a lot you can do about it, but it's been shown that your genetics actually do have an impact on the amount of weight that you carry. You can look at your parents and their parents and just see if increased weight has been an issue for them. But yeah, genetics does have an impact, unfortunately. And as Chris Van Tulleken says in his book, if you're the sort of person that just constantly thinks about food, loves food, makes food like an integral part of your life, you're probably one of those people that has those genes. And then the final point number 7 that could be causing you to have increased weight is not taking a break from the diet, because not taking a break means that you're probably going to quit at some point or stumble, because no one's got that much willpower, or very few people have that much willpower. So it's important that you take a break. And in the slow carb diet, Tim Ferriss encourages a cheat day, which I've rebranded as a treat day because I think it's nicer. And that's where you can just have whatever you want. And that helps with managing your willpower, because you don't have to kind of say to yourself that I'm never going to have ice cream again, or I'm never going to have a white carb again. You just have it on one day. And the theory behind it is that it spikes your metabolism, which I'm not sure if it's true. And it also basically, if you eat everything within the space of one 24-hour period, you can't really absorb that much, is the theory. I'm not sure if any of that's true, but from experience, I absolutely love the treat day. I think I learned a lot from it as well. So if you do put all this UPF and all this high carb, high calorie food within the space of one day, you feel pretty rough. I'll be honest, like it's great initially, but then you're like, oh, this stuff actually makes me feel like crap. So it makes you really realize the effect that stuff's having on your body. And the other point to make here is like, this isn't about like losing weight for, you know, a particular event like your wedding, whatever. This is about sustainably keeping the weight off, which is very different. It's as Simon Sinek would say, it's an infinite game of staying at your desired weight rather than yo-yoing. So I mentioned at the start of the video that I was going to talk through my journey, and my journey is essentially here. So I'll put up the chart of my weight over time, but you can see it just yo-yos. And I've tried so many different things to lose weight, and I get really motivated sometimes, like particularly the low point was around my wedding, so I lost a huge amount of weight for that. Subsequently just put it all back on again, and so I'm constantly trying new ways to lose weight. I think the first time I lost weight, which you can see on the chart, was due to a no carb diet, so full kind of 0 carb. Next time I lost weight, that was combined with huge amounts of exercise and calorie counting. So I was cycling sort of an hour to 2 hours a day, plus doing like an hour of CrossFit a day, which is obviously unsustainable now when I've got much less time. And then the more recent one is the slow carb diet combined with anti-ultra processed. So that's where I've basically toned down the exercise and focused in on the diet. And the other point in Chris Van Tulleken's book is he says that increasing the amount of work that you do, so the amount of exercise that you do, doesn't actually cause you to burn more calories, because that is also a homeostatic balancing system. If your calories reduce, that is to say, if you exercise more, your body just compensates and it ends up cancelling each other out. So if you do a huge amount of exercise, your body actually stops doing other kind of basic things. So increasing your exercise doesn't necessarily cause you to reduce weight, but it does have loads of other health benefits, which is why you should still do it. So yeah, I hope you found those points useful. There are 7 ways that could be contributing to your increasing weight, and then a bit of personal background about my journey, including my weight chart. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to hear more from me, don't forget to check out this video over here.